Good morning, world. A few days back, I woke up really early while it was still dark, and I snuck out of the room so I didn't wake up my roommate to get into a car and drive, and drive, and drive some more. We are going west, YouTube, to the place one goes to find things that cannot be found in the city, the place that it is impossible to leave once one arrives. We are going to Yellowstone. We are also at this moment going 93 miles per hour, and everyone is asleep but Lucas and me. Here's a picture of Lucas. Okay, so I know you want to rewind and pause to look at Lucas again, so we'll just leave him up here for a bit. As I was driving, I had a chance to actually ponder the universe, and because I was driving 1 billion miles per hour in the middle of nowhere, a very particular thought popped into my head. I wonder if it is the world that shrinks and changes instead of the individual that grows and alters. At this point in the trip, I stuck in my iPod and listened to John Denver for 2 reasons. First, we're now in the mountain range. Second, John Denver is the only music I know that represents the West. And now we're in Yellowstone. It's actually illegal to take video in Yellowstone without a permit, so everything happened coincidentally just outside the park. And I have pictures, like this one. It was our car's favorite sign for immature and childish reasons. And in Yellowstone, there is a great amount of wildlife. We saw bison, which are basically just huge wild cows, and yet to see one is breathtaking. I saw probably close to 1,000 bison in Yellowstone, and each time I was struck by how large and majestic they are. You wouldn't think of a great big cow as being majestic and beautiful, but somehow the bison pull it off. Also, Lucas saw a flying otter, friend of the elusive snowsnake, and related to the evil and basic unicorn, so we stopped for a bit to have a comprehensive look. Another thing that we got to do was go cross-country skiing. The first day we went to Mammoth Hot Springs. It was pretty great. Everyone fell a fair number of times, as none of us had ever before been skiing. And someone in the group spent the whole time complaining and griping because skiing was difficult. Now, I'm not going to brag, but by the end of day 1, I was falling on purpose. And falling hurts, and sometimes you lose a ski, and sometimes your back goes berserk on one of your more impressive strategic falls, and maybe you really screwed up a heel, but you're in freaking Yellowstone National Park in the winter, and I don't understand you at all for complaining. The next day of cross-country skiing, we went up quite north where the snow was very deep and fresh and powdery, and I had some real problems remaining vertical. And after falling for the 50th time, I got a little frustrated. And at the very moment when I cursed the snow under my breath, this guy, Jim, who was teaching us a ton of stuff about Yellowstone and elk and wolves and cougars, told us to stop moving, to stop breathing, and to stop thinking. He told us to look up and freeze. Then he told us to close our eyes. We stood there for a couple minutes, just listening to nothing. And it was in that moment that I decided I would be most happy to stay in Yellowstone forever. And I stopped caring that I couldn't keep myself from falling for more than 5 minutes at a time. I didn't care that the very deep snow was actually very cold, and it struck me once again that I was in freaking Yellowstone National Park in the winter. We saw wolves 2 days in a row, and on the second day we had the chance to listen to a jaw-dropping, eye-watering, breath-stealing, heart-clenching wolf howling fest. And I cannot even attempt to describe how incredible it is to have something like that break the silence out there. After this, someone in the group made a comment that she didn't understand how people could see something like Yellowstone and not believe in a Christian God. This is another thing I didn't really understand, because there were 2 things that just weren't in Yellowstone National Park. The first was litter, which was amazing. It's odd how attractive a landscape can look if there isn't a beer can in sight. The second was religion. The animals don't need it, the ground doesn't have it, and despite what I know many people say about witnessing natural beauty and ties to God, that was the first time I connected the 2 in my mind while out there. It's not that God doesn't belong out there if that's where he wants to be, but religion is a human-created institution. And though Yellowstone has thousands and thousands of humans that flock there each year, it's like playing the what doesn't belong here game, and human creations don't really belong in Yellowstone National Park. And we were once again waking up really early and piling into a car and driving and driving and driving. And since I was not driving this time, I slept and slept and slept, because in my sleep I was able to stay west. And while I was awake, I could only think of how I would love to go west to be, how I would love to be west at the end of my life, and how I would settle for that if it was all I could have, and how I wouldn't really consider it settling at all. And I'm not the same person I was when I left for Yellowstone, and the world has changed during the time I was away.